All right, well, welcome back. We're here from the break. We're here with our friend Daniel Rojas from Costa Rica, man. He's the last door org. Okay, thank you for correcting me. We're going to get a little bit into his life story, man. So, let's jump right into it. You were born in Buenos Aires.
I was born in Argentina, but in the north of Argentina, a province that is called Salta.
What year?
82.
All right. And so what was it like? And how do I want to say it correctly? Argentina?
Yep.
In 1982.
Just coming out of the military, how do you say, government.
Okay.
So in 82, actually have, one of the wars that we have there in Argentina for the Falklands Island against England. So it was a very tense year, we could say. Not that I remember, of course, the understanding of the history and all that, where there was a lot of needs. The government was the army, such directly, military government. You could not buy whatever you want. It was a dictator. How do you say? Dictatorship. That's exactly right.
Okay.
That's the word. Okay. So it was a good year to be born because from there you go on, of course,
Right.
But it was a very, very, the police will have a very strong presence in the street.
Okay.
And if you were a police, you were fine because you got a lot of authority.
In 1982 in Argentina, were the police a part of the government? Were they one and the same?
The same.
The same. So
Yes,
the
it's all
military
the
and the
same.
police were the same.
Yes, different branches, of course, but under the same.
Under the same rule.
Yes.
So the
everything.
military and the police would be both controlled by the same presiding authority.
Yes.
Okay. And so were you, did you have any additional siblings? Were you the youngest, oldest?
When I hear something funny,
Yeah.
my dad has had this idea that he was too much just for one woman.
Okay.
So he started to have multiple, I'm not going to say wife because they were not wife, just women, right? So I am the oldest of 30 siblings.
3-0?
3-0.
Okay. You're the oldest of 3-0.
Yes.
Okay. And so your father, you were telling me offline, he was also in the police force.
Yes.
And you want to begin to sort of unpack what it was like to be in 1982, 1983, 84, 85, 86 in Argentina as your family life sort of began to shape your personal experiences. What was it like when you were 4 and 5 and 6?
Until I was, I would say, 3 years old. Of course, I don't have much memories of that, but I remember my mama telling me about we were sort of a happy family-ish. My dad will play soccer also, and I remember maybe even if it's a very early age, that my mama will go outside of the house and have me, outside of the house waiting, for my dad to come from work.
Okay.
Or, we're going to go and watch him playing a game or whatever. And that was at the very beginning. But everything started to change when I was 4.
Okay.
Because when I was 4, my dad being a anti-narcotic police, okay, thought that I needed to be tough, right? I needed to be strong.
At 4.
At 4, a macho man. So he decided to actually, number one, put me to learn martial arts, to which we agree. I'm so thankful for that.
Okay.
But the reason he was putting me to learn martial art was because next day he put me to work on the street. I don't know if any of you that are listening us, have ever been to Latin America or yourself here. Sometimes you will go to Latin America and you'll see in stoplight, traffic light, children selling little things here and there. I think I've seen some of those also here in America. I was 4, almost 5, when I started to sell things in traffic lights, like candies, bubble gums, flowers, whatever my dad will give me. Was that because we were poor and needed the money? Not quite. It was because he wanted me to be a tough guy, right? A macho man. One of the things that I remember that I learned was this, okay? I remember when I was 4, I did not have a great happiness, but I saw people happy. How was that? In 86, Argentina won a soccer World Cup.
Gotcha.
And everybody was so happy. That was like a frenzy, you know, everybody in the street going crazy. And I was just so confused with that, but understanding that we won a game, right? So we're happy and everybody celebrating, and everything was just really, really happy. I saw my dad really happy with that. Okay. But then after that, I saw the other side of my dad. What was the other side of my dad? I would say abandoned. Not that he was not there constantly, but literally he just took me to the street and gave me the order saying, sell these things.
Would he take a percentage of your sales?
All of it.
He would take all of it. So,
Yes.
so you, unfortunately, in the earlier segment, we were talking a little bit about extortion, exploitation, trafficking. And unfortunately, now you're beginning to give us a little bit of backdrop that your personal experience you were beginning to be trafficked for the financial benefit of even your own father.
The deal was here. Let's say that whatever I was selling will be 10 cents.
Okay.
Right? The deal was sell $10, and with the next dollar, you get to eat something. Now, what I was selling was 10 cents of a dollar.
Yeah.
So you got to sell a lot to finally have enough money for you to buy something. Now, I was 4 years old, right? This is the one thing that I've learned at the age of 5, almost 6, right? That if you go to a restaurant trying to buy something, trying to sell something, people would not buy in a restaurant, right? But there's one thing they do in restaurants. They leave food in the plate. So I will walk into a restaurant knowing that I'm not going to sell anything, but if I get to that plate before the waiter gets there, I'll get to eat that food, right? Those leftovers. But then later, if I don't make it before the waiter gets there, this is the other thing that I've learned, age 6, that the food there is on the trash can on top of the rest of the other trash is still clean. So that's what I would eat.
Yeah, it's hard lessons for a 6-year-old young guy to learn in the streets and on your own. Yeah. And as you were explaining in Latin America, unfortunately, what you're sort of unpacking is that commonplace where there's a lot of young guys? Is there also young ladies doing similar thing, or is that primarily just young boys that have that hustle?
Primarily, you'll see boys doing that. And if you see girls, you will see their parents nearby. But it's mostly boys doing things like that. Now, with the advance of human rights and different things like that, you don't see that as you used to see it before.
Yeah.
Or the danger would not be as it used to be before, even though it's still there, right? But now you will see a little more like group of family often, being together and moving around and stuff like that.
I know that we were talking a little about your life story, but I want to jump forward or backwards, whichever. Or in the earlier segment, we were talking about how it was possible that a young boy or girl be trafficked and sexually, but you were telling us that oftentimes their parent is getting a cut of that financially, and it's like this inhumane thing of this is my child, but this is a means for me to live and exist, is I have to even sell my own kid and extort my kid for this, example that you're talking about on the streets, or conversely, the sexual thing,
Well, here's the thing. Right there where we come from, where the tourism is high, often children from Costa Rica, right, they're not sold out, meaning they're not being trafficked. You got to understand the word traffic implies two things. The first one is the mobilization of a group of people or a person from point A to point B, right? Mm-hmm. The other concept is the commercialized of person, meaning this: I sell that child's dignity, body, without the need for that child to be taken to another location, to another country, another continent, whatever. Meaning that I have my child, in this case, this lady has her child. They bring the child to the point of encounter with whoever the cartel is bringing to, as the customer directly there, right? The customer pays. The middle guy gets a cut. The mother gets another cut. The child just get raped.
Yep.
And then goes back home.
Yep.
See, with the mother. And that up until 10 times per day. That is also trafficking. Even though the child was not taken to another country, that is still trafficking.
Yeah, absolutely. So get back to your life story. You're 6. Unfortunately, you're learning some really hard lessons as a young 6-year-old boy. Your father is currently having sex with a lot and impregnating a lot of different women. Did you have any correlation with these other siblings or these other women?
Not at that time.
Was it
not at that age? Because me being the oldest, and at the very beginning, he was more discreet, we could say, having these other children around. Right?
Yeah. So you were taking, martial arts discipline. Were you beginning at 6 to use those skills, or was that something that was yet to come?
No, yet to come.
Yet to come.
Yeah.
So you're 6 or 7, and
You gotta understand that I was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 10 years until 10, I was scared every single day.
and why were you so scared?
Because I was being raped, because I didn't have nobody to turn in. Nobody was there to help me.
Yeah.
And the only time that I even asked somebody to help me, which was another grown adult man, ended up raping me.
Yeah. Is that something that was done by your father or your father's close policeman? Where do those horrific things come from?
In the street.
Yeah, in the street?
In the street, when I was working in the street.
Okay.
Another one was actually a neighbor, not neighbor that was next door, but it was in the same, location community, that my father asked to kind of keep an eye on me whenever I'll go to school, whatever, things like that. So he'll just rape me once per week, maybe,
Yeah.
So, and I was scared. I was a child.
Yep.
Okay. I was scared.
Extorted not to communicate, not to tell anybody. We'll come after you.
Yeah.
Tell the listener a little bit of how that actually occurred. I don't want to talk about the sexual activity,
Yeah.
but I want to talk about the things that were said to try to stifle and cloak the evil that occurs. What do they say?
Well, often, no. Sometimes they wouldn't say a thing. They would just come and just say, "Come here." But here's the thing: at the very beginning, I would not understand what was going on. I would just have pain, right? So they would just hold me, bring here. How do you say? I don't know the word, but anyway, just say some words, it's not trying to conquer me, like a girl, not at all.
Yeah.
Okay, well, just trying to just say a couple, things here and there, and just go and do, right? But then later, when I was maybe 8, and I knew that I knew some martial art, right? I tried to be brave,
Yep.
and it didn't work.
Yep.
Because they started to punch me.
Yeah. Over force of power.
Exactly, right? So then I became a very fearful child. Walking, if I needed to go to the school, and the school was maybe in a walk distance 2 blocks from my house, and I knew I have to go through that house that I knew I was going to be raped, I prefer to walk 10 blocks around
Yeah, sure you did.
to go around and just not even go through there. And having to just, now back in my days in the town where I come from, we didn't have cars like now. It was just mostly walk everywhere you go.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
So it was to walk with fear every step of whatever you go, trying to see, where was that person, where was that going to come from, or whatever. It was just being fearful all the time. Now, I don't know about if have ever you been feared, okay, or afraid, but in my case, I say that was actually like a smell. See, I could smell that I was afraid. There was something in the air, something that I would just smell, and it would just kind of bring me in. I don't know how to say that, like I just be afraid, right? But when I was 12, I decided that I had enough, and that fear became anger. And how did that happen? I was 12, and I got my black belt when I was 12.
Okay.
Right? And then I thought, I'm fighting good, okay, with in class with other children. And I was a good fighter, right? But with rules and everything. And then I say, I want to know if this is real. So I went to the street, and I decided to just go and fight. And I discovered something. The person was going to come, and I remember that very well. The person was going to come, was going to hit me, I was able to evade, to block that and punch him directly in the face. And then I saw that person look me in the eye with fear. And I liked it. And I said, I'm no longer a victim. And from that day on, I enjoyed for other people to fear me. And that brought me in a path of anger and being mad and enjoying hurting other people, because that will pull me away from me being a coward. Or at least that's what I thought, right? Being a coward, being afraid, being a victim. And I decided I'm not going to be a victim no more. And I decided that I'm going to be incorrectly the bravest person that nobody ever is going to mess with.
Yeah. Lot of stuff going on between 4-year-old when your dad put you on the streets at 4 to when you basically stood up at 12, right? But during those 8 years that you were still in that time, your dad was still requiring you to have a hustle in the streets. And as you were telling me, did your dad's direction of involving you in some negative activities?
Very much.
When did that begin?
When I was 7, 8 years old, maybe.
Yeah, describe a little bit for the listeners what you mean by that and what that looked like.
My dad was, as a policeman, was involved in, of course, stopping drug traffickers and drug to be trafficked, from different places. And long story short, this is not a very big unknown thing, was that as a policeman, he would stop whoever was bringing drug, would take the drug away from that person, but would not report the whole thing. Would just report part of that. And what would he do with the other drug? He would not sell it. He would not consume it. He would return it back to the traffickers. So now you have the traffickers' favor. You see? How would he return it? I was the mule.
Gotcha.
That would be me. He would teach me how to do it, where to go through, what to say, what not to say, right? And be involved in that world of drug trafficking. I was not trafficking. I was just the mule bringing drug from one point to another point, just returning whatever it was taken from them.
But do you want to unpack a little bit of that for the listener? The weightiness of running illegal drugs and having, as a young boy, that level of responsibility and pressure and briefing to behave a certain way. Like, how did that affect you as a young guy?
Oh, very much, because you're no longer a child. Let me put it like this. The dynamic of how everything happens has changed a lot, okay? Now, let's remember that I'm talking about 40 years ago, right? So the whole dynamic changed a lot. But in those days, whenever at the age of 8 years old, whenever I'll bring those back to the person, it's not a very sophisticated way how you see in movies, like, no, it doesn't work that way. It's a very, very common way, like I just go and but I remember a couple of times where I will come to bring the drugs back, right? And even here, I say drugs, but until right now, for me, it was just some plastic bags.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't even remember what was in there.
Yeah.
It was a child, right? But I remember as I walk in these places, I'll see people having sex. I'll see people, doing different things like that in general. So what I mean to say is that you asked, how that affected me was that I lost my childhood.
Yep.
I was forced to grow. I was forced to see the real world, or at least, what in that circumstance will be, the real world.
Yeah.
Okay. I was already raped, and I was seeing other people having, a sexual relationship, and I'll see a lot of those things. So for me, all those things that should be hidden from a child was openly everywhere.
Yep.
So it stole my childhood. There was no
innocence is maybe the word that you're looking for.
Exactly. There was no innocence.
Yeah.
I was already prepared, for things.
Yeah.
Life will cost nothing, right? So a lot of those things like that.
Yeah. So back to 12. So you began to fight your dad. You were running drugs, running things at the direction of your father.
Yes. He'll provide.
Yeah. And so like at 12, some things began to change in your attitude. You're going to fight back. You wanted to begin to hurt some people. keep walking us through sort of unfortunately your teenage years there at 12, man. How did that sort of change?
Those were the worst for me. I don't mean the worst. I mean, I was the worst. I was a mess. I decided to unpack every single thing that will sort of make me a victim. I will fight against that. So what it means that I started to fight everywhere. I decided to no longer obey my mom or my dad. I was on my own. I was my own man, we could say, even if I was 12, right? I will go out of the house and come back whenever I wanted it. I decided to have, because I was raped, that made me less than a man. So that's what I would think, right? So I decided to have as many girlfriends as possible. And even challenging with some other friends, I would say was like, who can have the oldest girlfriend? I was 13, I was 14.
Yeah.
Dating 30 and 30 plus, women, right? Now, remember, we're not talking about women from a church, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about that
Streets.
world. Exactly, okay? And thinking those things will make me a man, okay? Now, I do have to say, because of martial art, I do have to say, and I encourage people, like if you are going through things, martial art is a great thing, okay? Exercise your body, exercise your mind, because of martial art, because I was so thirsty of winning, because I wanted to be the best, because I didn't want to be a victim, I never did drugs. I never not even smoke a cigarette. Never, okay? Because that would slow me down in my skills. So I never did nothing of those. Alcohol, never did alcohol. I do remember one day, I was maybe 15, and I was actually in a park with some friends, and one of my friends decided to bring a cigarette. Not even weed. No. I'm just talking about regular cigarette.
Tobacco,
right? And we decided to smoke that cigarette, right? And for my horribly bad luck, the moment that I put that in my mouth, who shows up in front of me? People always say, your mama. No, I wish it was my mama, my martial arts sensei.
Oh.
That's even worse.
Yeah.
He came because I was about to fight in a competition. He came, he took the filter out, he took the lighter out, and he say, eat it. And I have to eat that cigarette. Okay? Now he might get in trouble for doing something like that, to an underage, but I did it. And I I hated the cigarette for many years after that. It worked, right? But I got into, this world of lost of control, where I would just do whatever I wanted to do. And why? Because I can. But that I can in a wrong direction. Nobody's going to hurt me. Nobody's going to disrespect me. I'm a man because of that. I'm going to be with as many women as possible, so others see that I'm not a no man, we could say, right?
Yep.
And just go and be that kind of life. For those years, I was very violent because I could, because I was trained, because I wanted it.
Were you violent on your own terms, or were you working violence on behalf of somebody who was trafficking you?
Until I was 16, I was violent on my own terms. And I would not belong to any gangs. Remember back in the 80s, it was popular being gangs in different places. And back in my hometown, this neighborhood would now go well with this other neighborhood because of one street, so they will be fighting each other, right? So whenever I knew there was a fight, I will go immediately and jump into the fight, not fighting alongside with anybody. It was
to fight.
Just to fight.
Both sides. Yep.
Exactly. Whoever was in front of me, I would just go and fight, right?
Yep. And the cartel, when you had neighborhood gang tussles or fights, were the cartels causing those fights? Were they facilitating?
No,
it
was just gang.
They just stayed out of it.
Yeah, I was just out of that. It was just stupid things. But then later, when I was 16, I went to a South American championship, okay? And I won it.
In your martial arts.
In martial art. It wasn't actually an open martial art competition, right? It was like a sort of like a MMA now-ish, but that was back in the day, so it was not such a thing like that. So I won it, and I became like the South American champion for my category there. So when I came back...
What discipline of martial arts did you fight in?
Ninjutsu.
And that was inside the cage when you were fighting, or was that open?
It was open.
Gotcha.
It was open, right? I did also cages, there. So when I came back, from this open martial art, it was like a mixed open martial art, right? When I came back, champion, my dad says, "Oh, so you are a champion now. I have a job for you." And that's when he connected me to one of the biggest drug dealers of the area, the region there, for me to be a hitman for that man. More than hitman, is a collector.
And your father made that introduction for your benefit, or was he going to financially gain from making the introduction?
Not financially, but prestige.
Prestige?
Yes.
And also to try to offer you as a good hitman for the success of this dealer?
Exactly. Plus, there was a big benefit. Meaning this, if I was the collector, the hitman, working for that guy, but the guy who could arrest me was my own dad, so he was not going to arrest me. In fact, that happened a number of times. Where I end up, in jail for a couple hours, maybe a day, where my dad would just make a phone call and I will be released.
Yeah, so we probably don't want to spend too much time of talking about that, but you want to give the listeners just a little bit of true life experience. What would it look like for you as a collector or a hitman? Sort of how that, not necessarily graphic details, but sort of what that looked like and what you had to do.
Here's the thing. Don't you think for a minute that there is any glory of that. For those that are listening now, don't you think when you see movies, that in a way or in a different way exalt, that action, like a very, like I say, victorious and even some sort of heroic, or what they do. That's not true at all. It's misery. Coming and hurting other people became different. Why? Because I was hurting others before to prove me something, right? But now I have to hurt other people because somebody's telling me to do something. People that have done nothing to me, okay? And now I have to come and hurt them. How do you say, affect a family? Having to live with those eyes later in my mind.
Yeah.
So there was no sensation of victory at all.
Yeah. I think as you were talking a little bit about that and addressing the listener or viewer, you, as a young boy, you began to capture imagery that no boy or child should have to capture. Then it just continued to capture these images of recouping, hurting, inflicting pain, right? And it's again and again and again. And I think that's one thing that I often think about is what marks a man is a man that hopefully has good imagery and that we can focus on, I wouldn't say positive things, Daniel, but definitely God has made guys that we can capture images. And the more inappropriate images that we have in our brain or our Rolodex or our mind, they do become burdensome. They do become wearisome and baggage. And as you were talking about, like the longer that you do this, unfortunately, it just weighs you down and it creates this misery, right? And it's not glorious. And as the more that you participate in sin, it's not enjoyable, right? And it's like, I appreciate what you said about you never consumed a whole lot of alcohol in your life. The limited alcohol that I have consumed in my life, it's like when the alcohol has its first effect, the most immediate effect in your blood brings you the greatest enjoyment. And then as the additional amount of alcohol gets in your blood, it diminishes the effect and you feel worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's unfortunately, like, I hate to ask you these questions, but I do think it's impactful to the listener to hear a guy's testimony and experience that's been that and lived that. And I think there's plenty of listeners that have not maybe similar experience as hitmen, in Argentina, but have captured imagery, right? So, man, like, keep walking us through the difficulty of your life as you're experiencing this misery as a hitman in the cartels and how that continued to affect your life.
I do have, a couple memories, few memories in my mind that even though I got saved later, and I'll tell you now in a minute how I got saved and you know that God has forgiven you for absolutely everything, a whole different story is for you to forgive yourself. And even though you may forgive yourself, to delete, to erase those memories from your mind is impossible.
Yeah, now we're talking, right?
Right.
Now we're talking.
And I have to live with it. I have to live with it. And I remember even right now, the very moment when I did it, when the person looked at me, when the child's person looked at me, and in that very moment, I was forced by my own bad decision to either continue with what I was about to do or come back and tell my boss I didn't do it. So having those eyes right to me, I did what I had to do. And not only in the moment that I did it, but before I did it, I knew I should not do that. I knew I shouldn't do that. And I did it. And it cost that very thing that I knew was going to cost, right? And after that, for a while, for a long time, I will remember that I said before that I used to live in fear because of what was happening to me. Then after that day, and after that day, a few more other times, I would be walking in the street knowing that at any point somebody was going to just terminate me. It could be competition, it could be who knows what, or could be somebody's child who know I became their pain.
Yeah, that's real, man.
And that child has the entire right, and at least that's what I thought before, to take advantage, to revenge.
To avenge the individual that you hurt.
Yes.
Yeah, those are some really difficult things for a young man to handle. And I, as you were talking, I do just want to take a minute right quick to sort of cross over that. I think that's why we agreed to do this podcasting and share transparently and vulnerably the negative experiences. And we as older guys, you do want to mentor and coach and disciple younger guys to say, please, like we're telling you that you're going to capture imagery that you cannot delete.
Oh my goodness.
And that you have to live with the rest of your life. And I appreciate you saying that God does forgive us, but we have to live with the consequences of the images that we capture. And that's why older guys are trying to tell younger guys, don't do it. Don't just listen to us, please. Don't do the things that we did, because you're going to have to carry the freaking weight of the images that we're carrying.
And the same line, even with my own boys and young boys that I treat with, and I say, same thing. Don't do it. You have two options. First one is for me to smack you in the face and smack you in the head, which will hurt.
Yeah.
Or life will do it. Let me do it.
Yeah.
Let me do it.
Yeah.
Life is not as patient. Life is not as graceful or merciful, like what I would do. Now, I promise you, I will hurt you. Okay? I hope so. But I'm not going to destroy you.
Yeah.
Life will. Okay? But there is always a moment where you can always stop and just ask yourself, right? Is this the life I want to live? And I don't mean, what you're doing outside and a lot of things. It's here's the thing. It's that point of decision where you think inside of yourself and saying, because that was for me when the day that I got saved. Other people hurt me before, very bad. Now, I was hurting myself. When I promised that nobody was going to hurt me ever again, now I was hurting myself. And that's even worse. Because I don't know about you, but I can be very mean to myself. Same way as when I don't give up when I fight. I don't give up when I'm working out in the gym. I don't give up. I just go. I prefer to pass out before saying, I gave up. When I hurt myself, when I punish myself, I do with the same passion where I'm mean. I'm really mean to myself.
Yeah.
Now, for many people, and I'm going to just try not to cross a line here, right? But for me, it was I never had a desire to take my life. I know some people might be thinking that, right? That you're not worth or whatever, or things that you have done made you come to that point, right? And I always say, listen, I mean, there's always a moment where you just gotta make that one decision. And I don't mean to do it, I mean to turn around and come back.
Yeah.
Okay. But for me, it was not an option because that would be too easy for me. Right. For me was I'm gonna hurt myself even more. I want to just destroy myself. And I was doing that, right? And it's very exhausting. It's so exhausting. You have no idea. To be looking over your shoulders everywhere you go. And here's the worst. I have my sister. And I have two other siblings. But my sister, I would be the most rebellious person in the world. She was a year younger than I. The most rebellious. Nobody can tell me a thing except my sister. She was the only one who I gave the permission, right, to be my boss. She will tell me, she will do. I have no authority upon her. She was the boss. Tell you that, right? I will protect her over everything. That's why one day some people came and knocked at the door of our house and invited us to go to a youth camp. Christian youth camp.
Okay.
Now, the world I was living in. For me to go to a youth camp was like, no way, that's not for me. Like a bunch of fanatics, exactly. Holding hands around a bonfire, singing "Kumbaya." They said, nah, not at all. No. But my sister wanted to go, and she said, "I will go. Either you go or not." And I said, "You're not going anywhere without me. Okay. I'm gonna go." And in my mind was I was going to go to protect her, but also to make all of those, sissies, okay, miserable. That was for me like wolf and chickens, like
no factor.
It's like, there's not competition there. Like, come on, a lot of just these mama boys there, So I was just going to go and just do my thing, But behind the whole thing, I was mad at my dad. I would blame him for everything that was happening in my life. But behind that, I'll blame God. So I say, all of these teenagers and young people wants to come close to you, God. No, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to go and I'm going to ruin it for everybody.
So you thought you could whoop up on God?
Try that.
Yeah.
So I challenged God. That was the best and the smarter thing that I have ever done. I challenge God.
Do you want to describe for the listener how that challenge went?
I think it's very obvious. I lost it. Okay, and I wish I would say that I only challenged God once, but I challenged God a few times in my life, and I lost each one of those fights. But this one, okay, I was there in the youth camp, and at the very beginning, I would see everybody doing all those games and things, and that would be just so lame and silly and dumb for me. You have no idea there. But on Wednesday, I heard for the first time about the sin. What is the sin? What caused the sin? What makes you do? What makes you feel? And I understood. On Wednesday, I decided that I was not going to fight God because I already lost the fight, right? But then I decided, okay, so sin is the problem in my life. That's why it's so heavy, right? So then I thought, okay, I'm going to go back to my hometown and I'm going to fix my life one day. And once it's fixed, I may come to God, right? Of course, doesn't work that way, right? On Friday, the preacher is actually sharing the gospel.
Okay.
And I'm sitting right in front of him. And he says something that was just, and I don't want to get mystical with this because I don't go on that line. But anyways, he says, I know you're here. Now, there was about 1,000 teenagers. And he says, I know you're here. He's not making eye contact with me. He's talking to everybody. He says, I know you're here, and I know that you're dealing with, and I know that what you're dealing with is anger. You have too much anger in your heart. And even maybe the person that you hate the most is your dad. He says that from the pulpit. I don't know if there's too many teenagers going through the same thing,
Right.
all right? But I thought in that moment, I'm talking about January of 1999, okay? I thought, did my mama call him?
But that sold out.
Right? I was like, that's not even possible.
Yep.
And he says, this is what happened to your life, he says. He went to the pulpit. He grabbed a basic clay basil,
Okay.
right? And came right in front of me. And he's talking to everybody, and he says, this is your life, and this is what you have done with your life. And he threw it down on the floor, smashing it, just broken pieces all over the place. And he said, and now you're wondering, he said, that's what you have done with your life. Now you're wondering, how is God going to put those pieces together? And in that moment, I knew there was not a magic show.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, whatever you do, I'm really now, curious of how you're going to put those pieces together, right?
Yep.
So he went back to the pulpit and he says, let me tell you something. God is not in the business of putting together broken pieces. He grabbed another basil, clay basil, but now this one is painted, beautiful. He says, God is not in the business of fixing broken pieces. God is in the business of making new life. He said he doesn't want to fix your old rotten life. He wants to give you a new life. And I say, that's what I want. I want a new life. That day, I received Christ in my heart. And like I say, not being mystical, but man, I felt like 200 pounds lighter that very moment when I say, God, forgive me for what I have done. I have sinned in my heart, and I know that I hurt you first. Forgive me. And in that moment, even without knowing, I say, and I forgive those who have hurt me too. Forgive me, God, and I receive you as my Savior. Take my pain. Oh, saying those words, brother, when I say, God, now you remember that I have nobody that I could call to?
That's right.
And then when I say to God, take my pain, he took my pain. And I got saved.
Right on.
And then I say, God, I don't want to hurt people no more. I want to help people now.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Do you remember why you were so willing to concede to the sin problem in your life? Do you remember that sort of why you relented so easily when you were so tough and hardened and had such great resolve in your life?
Well, not that it was easy. That was just a little longer story short, but the thing was, I did not understand, let's say, or didn't know basically what was the sin, never heard about sin. It's not that I never heard about sin, but I never heard what was the sin and how heavy was sin. Because when the preacher explained it, right, he explained it this way, okay? He says, he called two teenagers to the front, right? It was a very dynamic exercise. He says this, okay? Sin is sin. But then he have this kind of like a potato bags, like those big bags, okay? And says this, each potato is a sin, right? So he gave to this young man a bag of potato with one potato. And to the other guy, 2 sacks of potatoes, and made them a race. And very obviously, who won? The one who had only one potato. He says, here's the thing. Those potatoes are sin. Which one of those have sin? You were like, well, we both have potatoes, we both have sin. It doesn't matter how many sins you have committed to become a sinner. You are a sinner. But it does affect how heavy it is depending on how many,
Yeah.
potatoes you carry.
It's a good illustration.
I didn't have 2 sacks of potatoes. I have a load, a truck of potatoes.
Truckloads. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why I understood how heavy it was.
Yeah. Burdensome.
The burden.
Yeah. Yeah. Wearisome. I mean, that's why the scriptures, Jesus says, all you are wearisome, come to me.
Exactly.
Right? And I will lighten your burden. I can't remember exactly how to quote it.
I'll
Verbatim,
take it out,
right?
make it easier. Yep.
I'll make it easier. It's that I'll offload
Yeah.
the weightiness and I will take it upon myself. And I think that that's a really good sort of comment into your life or segue into the sort of the next part of, okay, you give your life to Jesus. You no longer want to hurt people. You said instantaneously you made a desire to sort of forgive yourself.
Yep.
Correct? So what does that look like when you were 16 or 17? How did you say?
17.
17. And you ask Jesus to save you, and what happens next though?
One thing is to say words. Another thing is to understand and leave those words, right? So when I say that I forgive myself, I said it, I wanted it, but there was still a lot of things inside of me that needed to be healed, right? But here comes the thing. Here comes, and I'm going to just make it, I don't want to speak too much, okay? But here's the thing. I got saved. I went back home. I tried to share the gospel to all of my friends, even to my boss. That's the day I lost my job and my friends, okay?
Yeah.
Because of that, I spoke with my mama and I say, I heard that people from the camp, to which I didn't want to go first, right? They have a Bible school. I want to go and learn more about God. So she did not have any problem to let me go, because I was already a troublemaker there,
Sure
so I was like,
yeah.
sure, go, you have our blessing.
Go on out of here.
Exactly, you
Yeah.
know. So I went to Bible school. That's where I met my wife.
Okay.
Right? She was from Costa Rica. That's the connection, how I ended up in Costa Rica, right? So
The Bible school was in Argentina, though.
Argentina.
She was visiting from?
She came from Costa Rica to Argentina to Bible school.
Gotcha.
Right? Program of 3 years, curriculum of Bible school.
Okay.
We finished Bible school. She came back to Costa Rica. I came after her, right? I hitchhiked all the way from Argentina to Costa Rica. Took me 3 months to get there. So I got there. And we started to live this amazing Christian life of helping people, planting churches, sharing gospel, receiving teams from the U.S., okay?
You guys get married? Do you have any children at this point?
We got married in 2023.
Okay.
No, 2003.
Gotcha.
Right? We got married in 2003. We have twins boys, and later we have a beautiful young, daughter. We have a daughter also. And we started to live this life, right? 8 years ago is when all of this happened with human trafficking. When I was offered these twin girls.
All right, hold on a sec. So you Bible school, you get saved. Your wife, 3 years in Bible school, and then you guys move back to Costa Rica. You're married at this point?
Yes.
So do you change your citizenship from Argentina?
No, we don't have to change citizenship.
You don't?
Okay? We don't change the citizenship, but I have like a dual citizenship.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Give me a second.
Yes.
Yep.